All right, what's good, people? It's Smoove with Smoove Creations, and I'm back with you again with episode 4 of the Custom Sneaker Podcast. And I'm also joined with a special guest who is also very, very big in the customizing industry, especially in the greater Cincinnati area. We have Jim Nelson, who is the founder of GOI Kicks, which is Glacier of Ice Kicks. And Jim, I'll kind of just let you introduce yourself and really just talk about how you got into customizing sneakers.
Yeah. Jim Nelson. So I'm here in the Cincinnati area. My number one goal really is to be the oldest person that's ever on your podcast. And so we'll see if that holds up.
Yeah, we'll see. So far, so good.
Yeah. So just the average middle-aged guy that grew up in Cincinnati that last August decided to start customizing shoes.
Wow. Okay. So you're new.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. So I also hope to be the longest intro on your podcast. So the backstory is probably as much fun as like everything that's happened since. So,
gotcha.
I think it all started. Last February, I told my wife, I said, I want to get back into collecting shoes. And she said, okay. She's super supportive.
Yeah.
And I grew up, so like when the first Jordans dropped, I was in 6th grade. And so I had every single Jordan from like 86 through like 96, 97.
Right.
And the Wu-Tang blew up in my college years. And so you can kind of see like all these things that have influenced like the art that I do.
Right.
And so anyhow, life happened, graduated from college, had kids. I've got a very successful career. I'm a senior director of marketing.
Wow.
And so all that stuff happened, and finally I was just like, man, I kind of miss collecting shoes. And my wife's like, go for it.
Right.
So I told her, I sent out a tweet. I said, this isn't going to end well. And I bought my first pair of Jordan mids. Right. So don't make fun of me.
No, it's good. It's good.
There are a lot of Jordan snobs out there, but I don't care. I mids, right?
Yeah, no, people get. I never understood that, why people get mad over lows, or like I've worn Jordan lows before, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's girly." I'd be like, I mean, it's shoes. Like I don't like people get mad over that, but keep going. My bad. Didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
yeah. So anyhow, I bought my first pair of Jordans again last February. Sent out a tweet, and I said, "This is not going to end well." And so. Having a successful career, I actually was fortunate enough to have some expendable income.
Right.
And so every like 2 weeks or every month, I would buy like 3 pairs of shoes, and it was like $100 here,
right,
$150 here, $200 here. So it started to get up to where I was like, man, like I really want these Air Jordan 3s, but I don't want to pay $400 on StockX.
Right.
And so I just, I don't know how I stumbled across, I think it was on the GOAT app.
Okay.
And I noticed there was a button that said used. And so I clicked on used. And so on GOAT, people resell their used shoes.
Yeah.
And
that's literally where I go. That's where I go every single time.
Is it?
Yeah, I go straight to used. I go straight to used. That's funny.
Well, so I thought, that's so gross. Like, why am I going to buy someone's used smelly shoes?
Right.
And then I went down this rabbit hole, and I'm like on YouTube looking at used shoes restorations.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, well, maybe there's something to this. I'll get, so I bought my first pair of used shoes, and they came, and like the midsoles were slightly cracked.
Right.
So then I jump on YouTube, and I'm like, there's got to be a way to paint these. And so I found like an Angela site or a YouTube channel or something. I forgot what it was, but so then I ordered Angela's paint. I came in, and now I'm like Googling like, okay, you've got to like strip the paint first. Right. You've got to wipe off the finish and like all that stuff. And so I started to go down that rabbit hole. And so now I'm buying like used shoes, restoring them just for myself. And so it's getting like, I'm buying 2 or 3 pairs every week. So it's like starting to get out of control, but it's okay because I'm spending like, what normally I would have spent like $400, I'm spending like $100.
Right. You're doing it yourself. So.
Yep. That's exactly it. And again, this is just for me. It's not for anyone else. And we were it was coming up close to August, and we were going to fly out to see 90s rap group called the Wu-Tang Clan. And we were looking around the country, and like they were playing in Iowa, and Iowa was like the only concert that they had. It was like an open festival seating, except they had like VIP up front.
Right.
And you know, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. So we wanted to be up front, and so that's the reason we were gonna fly out to Iowa. So anyhow, long story short, I'm like, man, you know what? I've always wanted to put like the Wu-Tang logo on a pair of sneakers, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with the Wu-Tang Clan, but I'm sure
I'm a big fan.
Their logos everywhere, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm like, all right, well, let's. So I bought a pair of used all white Air Jordan 1s mids. Okay. And so I got them. And I'm like, okay, so I'm like Googling like what to do. And so I got some more paint in, and I'm trying to rush because like I've got like 4 weeks before we're going out to the show. Right. And anyhow, so long story short, I did them, and they turned out way nicer than they should have.
Okay. Yeah, no, they're really clean. Like I thought you did that. Yeah, I see them right there. And on your profile, like those stood out to me. I think I don't know if it was maybe as soon as I followed you, maybe you posted them, but those like really stood out to me. And so I was, I'm glad you, because I was going to ask a question about them. But yeah, no, those are real clean. Those are super clean.
So that's what started it, like all that. And so we're flying out to Iowa. We're about to, and so I've got 3 of my buddies, and so I'm texting them, and I'm like, look at these shoes, and they're all like freaking out. They're like, can you do that for us? And sure. But, and I don't know if you're like this, but I don't like, when I do something, I hate repeating myself.
Yeah, I hate it too.
Especially any kind of artwork or anything like that. And so I was like, all right, well, yeah, I'll do something for you guys, but I want to do something different.
Okay.
So, so I did mine, obviously the Wu-Tang Clan. One of our buddies was a huge Method Man, Redman fan.
Okay, right.
So I did what ended up being my first verses.
Okay.
I did the left shoe was Method Man, and then the right shoe was Redman.
Okay.
So did those, and like these turned out even nicer. I'm like looking at these things like I don't know how they're turning out this nice, but I'm on to something. And then the third pair that I did, I took the New York Knicks logo for my buddy. Right. He's a huge Knicks fan.
Okay. No, I saw this too.
Did you see those? Yeah.
I saw those.
So I made the Ghostface Killers.
Okay.
And I took Ghostface and morphed it into that Knicks logo on a pair of Air Force Ones high.
Right.
No, what were? Yeah, they were. So and then the last one I did was I wanted to recreate Old Dirty Bastard, who was in the Wu-Tang Clan. I wanted to recreate his album cover, his first album. Okay. And so I did that on a pair of Air Force One mids. Right. And they just were ridiculous. Right. And I thought, well, this is crazy. I'm just going to post these on my personal account. And so I did. And I got a DM like about 2 days later. And it was from Josh Gannett. And I didn't know who Josh was at first. Right. But I saw like he had all these photos with the Wu-Tang guys, and he was like in studio with these guys, right? And like Redman is like great friends with them, and he goes, "Hey man, give me your phone number." And so gave him my phone number, and he called me. He goes, "This is gonna sound weird, but the Wu-Tang Clan, they're like all fans of your art."
Wow. Wow.
I'm just like,
you're like, what? I just did this.
I'm like, looking at the phone, like, what are you talking about? Art? And I'm like, well, yeah, it is art. And he's like, yeah. He goes, Inspector Deck has a new album that's coming out. We want to pay you to do his shoes.
Wow.
Just like, okay. So like 23-year-old me would be like freaking out. Yeah. And of course, 46-year-old me is like going nuts. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I said, as a matter of fact, we're like flying out in like 2 weeks to see the Wu-Tang Clan. And he goes, perfect. We'll hook it up. woke you guys up, and then so anyhow, long story short, I did Inspector Deck. The first pair of shoes that I did, really for anyone, was for Inspector Deck of the Wu-Tang Clan. And so we flew out there. We were VIP the whole time, hung out, gave him the shoes, and it was just like that. So that's like how all this started. And so then, you know, I'm trying to figure out, do I want to go the path where I'm just doing like different colorways for friends or for people, set up like a Etsy store, and I kept one after another. I just kept getting like really famous people that were reaching out to me and like, hey, can you do our shoes? Can you do our shoes? And so that's the path I'm like going down. It's crazy.
No, that's nuts. I mean, that's a really cool story, because you were just doing it. You didn't even think about it. You were just doing it because you love Wu-Tang Clan and your friends loved it too. And then that's crazy that it ended up. So did it so like, I know he saw it. Did it like blow up? Were people like sharing it everywhere? Or did you tag them? Okay. Got it.
Yeah. No, it was and so actually that's how they found me. So I'm in charge of digital marketing.
Okay.
So like social media, the website, but all marketing, right? Okay. And I think you're into web design, right?
Yeah, that's my major. I just graduated.
Yeah. You get all this, right? Yes, and so for me, like I understood like the power of Instagram and you know the algorithms and keywords and things like that, and so hashtags, and I'm just like because I just really honestly just because I knew what to do with the hashtags.
Right.
Doesn't sound like it's, you know, rocket science.
Right.
The Wu-Tang guys like got on my radar, or vice versa.
Wow. No, that's nuts. And so at that point where I don't know, that's crazy, because usually people start off with customers and then they kind of like build their way up to go into famous people. You just went straight into famous people. That's crazy.
Well, here I'll share a story. So, because I want to give a shout out to a guy down in Dallas, Texas. So he owns a company called Laced Society.
Right.
So he does just crazy sick work. And so like when I first started to do this, I was like following anyone and everyone that I could, just because like I didn't know like what kind of paint do I use, or like, you know, so I saw someone using like a sandpaper. Do I need sandpaper? And I'm sure you probably, you know, when you first started.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was looking.
When did you start?
I started in 2017. It was right after my freshman year of college. And so and then it was kind of, that's why I'm like kind of blown away, because when I got my first customer, I was like, man, I don't know how to do this. And I couldn't imagine you were doing it for famous people. So like that had to been, I'm not sure if it was, but I'd imagine that'd be nerve wracking, because you're like, man, I have no idea. And these are about to be on stage, or these are about to be wherever it was. Like that had to have been nerve wracking.
Like, you know, I think it was and it wasn't. And here's why it wasn't. Okay. I think I was just naive that like I could just do this.
Right.
And I think I and I don't know if it was like a false sense of like security or confidence, but just because the first shoes turned out so well,
right?
I'm like, well, I'm sure I could figure this out,
right?
But I've kind of held on to like all my designs are like things that like I would personally wear.
Okay.
And I've always been kind of like over the top. I've always kind of gone at everything like at level 100.
Right.
Always have tried to like stand out. And so like to do like a pair of like Hulk Hogan shoes back there that are like, you know, bright yellow and Andre the Giant and another one, like those are shoes I would wear. And so like that's what I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna do stuff that like makes me happy, and I'm just gonna try to find people that like maybe are a little bit similar to me, and hopefully it all works out. So yeah, it's weird. I should have been more nervous than I was, but and again, I think I blend that on just being naive to the process. But I do want to do a call back to Lace Society, because like they were like my go-to when I had like questions in the very beginning.
Got you.
And I'm sure like in 2017, there probably wasn't like a lot of like YouTube content out there for you to look at, right?
There was a few YouTubers. I would say it's a lot more. there's a ton now. There's a lot of people on YouTube like showing their tutorials. It was more so Angelus. I was watching Angelus tutorials, the company that makes the paint, of course.
Yeah.
So that was really what I was watching. I don't think I've heard. You said the name's Lace Society.
Yeah, so Lace Society. So yeah, he was like my go-to, and I'm just like, hey man, like what airbrush are you using, or I mean, those kind of questions.
Right,
and
right,
God bless him, man, because he answered every single question.
Wow.
And so we've kind of formed a friendship, just that we've never met each other, just messaging each other on Facebook or DMing on Instagram. But I just want to give a shout out because like what he did for me, like I try to do when random people reach out to me and they're like just started, and I'm like, yeah man,
you're giving me some tips too, so that makes sense. That makes sense actually. Okay. So
it's really cool.
Have you had any, so I know you jumped into famous people right out the gate. Have you done any just for normal customers? Or is it more so just like one-of-one for those people who are, like in a different, like, I guess like status?
I know what you mean. Cause like you should see me trying to, I pretty much have to say no to everybody.
Okay.
And the reason I think I even gave you this advice. I said, early on, I said, be prepared to say no to things so that you can say yes to the things that you want to say, that you want to do, right?
Gotcha.
And so I've like, I have to say no because I work full time, right? I have a really awesome career as a digital marketing director. And so like from like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., I'm that. And then from like 6 p.m. to 9 o'clock, I'm husband and dad.
Right.
And so like, I have like from 9 o'clock into midnight every single night. And then the weekends to kind of do my shoe habits. Right. And so for me, times like, I don't have a lot of it. And, I'm not doing this necessarily for like if I had to write out 10 reasons why I'm doing this. Number 10 would be money. It's probably like it's not even like the reason I do this.
Right.
So it's so but it's hard because I have to explain to people like I have to say no to you, so I could say yes to, and I kind of like fumble with my words because I'm like I don't want to say famous people, right? But like it's really just people I want to work with. So.
Right. And it's just it's like, it's more fun. Like you've met the Wu-Tang Clan and you're VIP status. So I get what you're saying. At first, when you asked me that question, or not when you asked me, when you told me that, I didn't like understand it. I don't think fully.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't know, I just didn't understand it. But now that you explain it a little bit better, I think I get it. Because like if you had a huge clientele base, you wouldn't be able to do these famous people, or it would have been one of those situations where people had to wait 6 to 8 months to get their custom shoes, and people don't want to do. But there's a lot of customizers that do that. Like a lot of them will have people wait like 6 to 8 months or whatever, just because they're so busy doing everybody else's shoes. So no, that makes sense. I actually get that.
That's exactly it, man.
Right.
I can't do all these. I had turned down a job last night from a really awesome and really cool pro wrestler that wanted me to swap out colors, and I'm just like, if I say yes to that, like I can't say yes to Method Man on Project you know what I mean? So it was just kind of like
right.
And so I'm fortunate enough that like I started this as a hobby. I started this as a creative outlet for me, and it's morphed into really just me doing having some awesome interactions with some like people. Like I grew up like idolizing these people, right?
Yeah.
And now they're like texting with them. It's just weird.
Yeah, that is crazy. And so I'm glad you brought up WWE. It seems that you have done a lot of famous WWE people. And so how did you get into that? Like what was the deal with that?
Yeah. Do you watch wrestling at all?
I used to when I was younger. I haven't watched as much, but I used to.
Yeah. Usually I think the typical path for like a wrestling fan is they watch it when they're young. You get in like middle school and high school and sports, like friends, and you kind of get out of that kind of stuff, right? And so I did the same thing. And then so like you know, I was in college in the 90s.
Right.
And that's kind of when it like blew back up, and there was two big companies, WCW and WWE. Right. And so then I got really back into wrestling. And through a mutual buddy of mine, I met a wrestler. His name was Chris Canyon.
Okay.
And we just he loved the fact that in the 90s, especially in the late 90s, pro wrestling was still like the wrestlers weren't, obviously we didn't have social media, so they weren't as accessible, and pro wrestling was still what they say is protected. And so like if you were to walk up to a pro wrestler and say, hey, wrestling's fake, you're gonna get punched, right? And you still might, by the way.
Right. So do they, okay. Yeah. Do they still get, like, I wonder if they get mad about that. I'm glad because I've always wondered that, like, do people say stuff to them, or like, do they, I don't know.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
It's crazy. It's like you wouldn't walk up to, who's your favorite actor or actress?
Scarlett Johansson. That's my favorite.
Okay. You wouldn't walk up to her and be like, what you do is fake. You know, that Avengers movie, that was all fake. Like, what's it like to do fake stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's you know, she's an actress, and she's they're filming something that is scripted, but like what they do and some of the stunts they do and things like, so that's wrestling, right? And so like fake's not the right word. You scripted, but what they do, man, it hurts. Right. It's crazy, but it's so anyhow, it was pretty protected back then. So it wasn't like you could just like to hang out with a pro wrestler was kind of weird. And so I got to know Chris Canyon, and like anytime they had like a Monday Night Nitro, we would go with him, and then we'd all hang out afterwards. And so like we'd be in like a private bar section. Okay. And it would be like Ric Flair, my buddy Canyon, Chris Jericho. And it was like in the 90s, and it's just kind of like, well, this is crazy. So like, that's kind of like when I had this first glimpse of like, you know, oh wow, this is kind of like what fame looks like. And this is what it looks like to kind of be on the fringe of, you know, knowing people that are kind of famous. Right. But so that's kind of like how that was my in to pro wrestling. And so through Chris, I just got to meet a whole bunch of other wrestlers. Okay. And I got to be really good friends with a wrestler by the name of Shane Helms. Wrestled as the Hurricane. Right. Shane, right? Okay. Gotcha. His I wouldn't say claim to fame, but one of his highlights is he was the last person to pin The Rock on Monday Night Raw. Wow. Okay. No, that's a big deal. I get that. That's a big deal. Right? He's like one of the most famous. Yeah. Yeah. So he so I've known Shane, and Shane is so loved by other wrestlers, and he up until recently was working behind the scenes at WWE. Right. And so he's actually a part of the company. We don't really say a lot about that, but he helps out with marketing. He helps out with social media stuff. Okay. Just because he's just a good friend of mine. And so like one of my if I had to give pieces of advice, right? So I gave that one to you, but I always tell people like be fans of like everything that your friends do, no matter what it is. Just be a fan of that, right? And they don't have to be famous. They don't have to be like a pro wrestler. They don't have to be an artist. But like if you are a fan of whatever your friend does, surround yourself with people that also give you the same love. And that's kind of like our friends. So Shane has been so instrumental. People knew that he was a part of the company. Right. And so like someone like Rey Mysterio, who's got, I think he's got like 4 million Instagram followers. Yeah. He's reached out. He's like,
yeah, I remember him. That's somebody I remember. He reached out to you?
So I did choose for Rey Mysterio. Man. What I wanted to do was, and this really was the second shoe that I did in what I called the Versus series. And so the Versus is really, I do something on one shoe and I do something else on the other shoe. Okay. Right. Okay. And so they might be friends, you know, if it's pro wrestlers, it might. So for Ray's thing, it was really to celebrate a match that he had, a real famous match with Eddie Guerrero. Okay. so anyhow, I did these shoes for Ray. Ray commissioned them. And so I sent them off to him, and so he posted them, and it got like 100,000 likes on Instagram.
Yeah. That's crazy.
These are like my 10th shoes I've ever done.
Yeah.
And it's like 100,000 likes.
Mm-hmm. Instantly.
Yeah. So yeah, that was crazy because then this was, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months ago.
Okay.
My phone started to blow up, and it was all my buddies. Well, this is after this, and they're like, hey, did you watch the Rey Mysterio documentary that just came out on the WWE network? And the network has like 5 million people that subscribe to it, right? So like millions of people have watched this. And so I'm like, no. And so like I turn it on, and like the first like minute, it starts off, it's zoomed in on Ray's feet, and he's wearing my shoes.
Oh my gosh.
And he's walking in slowly into this interview, and he sits down, and he's talking about this famous match that I paid tribute to on his feet.
That's crazy.
And right?
That is crazy. That is crazy. That had to have been super rewarding. Like that had to have been, that had to have been nuts. Because Rey Mysterio, he's somebody I remember as a kid. I'm 22 years old. I remember him when I was younger. Like that's nuts that he reached out to you.
Yeah. So he did that. There's a wrestler named Matt Hardy. I don't know if you know the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, I know Matt Hardy.
Yeah, so Matt's got like 3 or 4 million people on Instagram, and the same amount on Twitter. And by the way, this is probably, I think, useful information that you could use. And I don't know if you've seen this, but like when you post stuff on Twitter versus Instagram, it's like the engagement level on Instagram is like 10 times the amount on Twitter. Right. So like anything like these people, they were sharing, Ray and Matt, they were sharing stuff out on Twitter and Instagram. And whereas like Twitter might get 10,000 likes. Right. Instagram got like 100,000 likes. So it was just crazy to see like the difference between the two platforms. But it's hard. I want to ask you about where are you focused on as far as like social media and trying to grow your brand?
Got you. So one of the things actually, and it was actually kind of cool. The reason why I wanted to ask you about kind of like the WWE and all that is because I'm doing shoes right now for somebody, Brian Cage. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all.
Dude. So ready? Okay. So this right here. Yeah. Okay, this is Chris Kanyon. He wrestled as Mortis. Right. Chris Kanyon gave one wrestler his outfit before he retired. Do you know who that wrestler is?
I have no idea.
Brian Cage.
Really? That's crazy.
That is crazy. Dude, yeah. That's a small world.
Yeah, I know. So I was doing, I'm doing something for him, and I was like, man, like I know somebody who does WWE shoes all the time. And so that's why I wanted to ask you. But honestly, as far as me, I'm really just focusing on trying to push out as much content as I can. And I think the reason why I started this podcast is because when I started, I used to literally just study tutorial videos and see what other artists were doing it and how they achieve different styles and different fades. And I just thought it would be really cool just being able to just understand people's story and understand how people got into customizing shoes. And I feel like a lot of times, like one thing I've noticed a lot is that like a lot of times people will feel like they're like competing or that like, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't want to give away their secrets or whatever. But to me, it's just like, man, like this is everybody. It seems like everybody does it for that creativity aspect and just providing an outlet to themselves. And that's really just kind of what I wanted to highlight. So really just focusing on this podcast, getting other people's stories out there, and really just seeing how I can provide value, how I can even get value. And a lot of times, I don't know if you've gotten this, but a lot of times people will even ask me for tips who don't customize shoes, but they're also really interested in it. And so having a podcast where other very successful customizers kind of break down how they got into it and some tips, I thought could be very beneficial. So that's really where a lot of my focus is right now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, content's key. And like if you look on my Instagram, because I'm not knocking out shoes like every other day. It's like one a week or at most 2 a week, and more likely probably like 1 every 2 weeks. Right. So I've got to fill in like those gaps with content. And so like you follow me on Instagram, it's almost like the majority of what I post up there, it's either sneaker related that I'm just interested in,
right,
pro wrestling related, or like 90s hip hop. And it's like, those are like the three things. But like, I look at like in between like me posting sneaker content, I post all this other stuff that I'm interested in, because people that are probably interested in those sneakers are also interested in like this other stuff. And so that's kind of allowed me to see like a slow, steady growth. But even with doing shoes for real famous people, like I just did the shoes for, there were two guys from the NWO. I don't know if you remember that wrestling group.
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you would recognize the T-shirts. They're like they're about as famous as Wu-Tang shirts, right? Okay. So NWO. So they were getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame this year, and so I did shoes for them. And again, they're sending out stuff to like millions of people,
right?
And you would think that getting that kind of exposure, like, oh my God, like my Instagram followers are gonna like, I'm gonna get 10,000 people in one day, and it's like, no, man, it's like when Rey Mysterio posted out to 5 million people, I probably got maybe 150 people that started to follow me.
Right.
It's hard, man. It's really, really hard to grow out. And so I think for you, and I think for really anyone that's looking to do this, I think you're doing this the right way. You're in this for the long term, right? And so like you're looking at this as like, hey, I'm not trying to like spike up super quick. Like I'm trying to build out a brand.
Right.
I love your setup, man. Your podcast setup, awesome.
Thank you.
I love the fact that like you're doing interviews with, I mean, your first two podcasts that had guests on there seemed like they were really well-known folks in this game. And so I think just by association, you're going to have that rub, and you know, it's all about content. Content. So like it's like the YouTube videos. Right. Why did you go to the YouTube videos? Because there was valuable content that you wanted to see.
And it's cool.
Like you're
yeah, it's crazy because like these were the people that like I used to watch for my last episode I had DeJesus Custom Footwear. I've been watching him since like 2015 or something like that. And like then he got on the podcast and I was like, oh, hey, like like that. I don't know, it's just weird because I was like, man, I've been watching your tutorials since I don't know. So it's just, but it's cool to be able to sit and talk to, or like you, I've been watching a lot of the stuff that you've been doing and like with WWE and everything like that. And I was like, man, this dude's like really out here. Like you were like backstage. I saw the backstage being with Wu-Tang Clan and like your shoes like on WWE. And I was like, I wonder how that, like, and it's cool because you wouldn't think that, and especially us being in the same community, you wouldn't think that like shoes like that are coming out of Cincinnati or in the greater Cincinnati. You would think, because typically it's like California and it's typically just West Coast stuff like that. So I was like, man, that's so cool that he's been able to do that.
That's what, like when we were at the basketball game and like we went out afterwards at the pizza place. And so we're for folks that don't know, I'm an alum from Northern Kentucky University. That's where you just graduated, right?
I did just graduate, so we're both alum.
Man, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we just happened to be in the same place, and we didn't know each other.
Right.
And we had a mutual friend that said, "Oh my God, you guys have to connect," because they knew what I was doing, and they were like telling me about all the stuff that you were doing. Right. And so that's kind of like when we connected, and it was just kind of like, oh wow, like I didn't know anyone in this like Cincinnati area like is doing the same stuff. Right.
It's real cool because you typically don't see people customizing shoes at all. Like when I started customizing shoes, like people were like, what? Like, okay, like I don't know if you got that reaction at all, but like when I started, they're like, okay, like you're customizing shoes, like, you know, nobody else really does it. And it was like, it's something that it's bigger now, more people are doing it, but still you're not going to find a lot of people customizing shoes. So when I heard, I was like, and I heard that you were in like the same community. I was like, bro, I gotta link with him. So
that's so awesome, man. Yeah, I'll share a story. So just like weird stuff that my wife has to put up with. So like when I first started to do this, like I was getting like Amazon packages left and right, like almost daily, whether it was like coming in.
Right.
One day, like I told her, I was like, hey, by the way, there's like a big package that's coming in. It's an airbrush machine.
Yeah.
She's like, airbrush. What are you talking? Why? And I'm like, look, I've been hand painting these things, and everything I'm seeing, it's like, from what I'm doing, I'm going to want to start to airbrush it. And I've never, ever, ever, like, I've never seen an airbrush machine, let alone used one. And so, like, I like, this is all recent stuff. I had to learn how to airbrush, and like, I have no clue how it worked out, but it has. I also am looking to start taking apart sneakers, kind of mapping them out, right, and then deconstructing and then reconstructing.
Gotcha.
So I dropped. I was gonna say I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm not really embarrassed. It's kind of fun. So like, I paid $3,000 for a sewing machine that had to come in from California.
Yeah.
And it had to come in on this huge truck, like a big rig truck. And so I had to tell my wife, I'm like, hey, next Thursday, are you going to be home at 9:00? And she's like, yeah, why? I said, well, there's going to be a huge truck that's pulling up. She's like, like one of those U-Haul trucks. I was like, no, like an actual, like, big rig. And they're going to be dropping off a sewing machine. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be on this huge cargo freight thing. And so it's just random weird stuff.
Was it I think I had that same sewing machine. Was it, and that's the exact same thing that happened. Is it a Singer? Is it a Singer sewing machine?
Or no, it's Texo, but it's the same thing. It's the hype sewing machine. Right. Gotcha. So you got one.
I have one. I don't know how to use it. Like, I haven't been able to find tutorials on how to use it, but I do have one. I bought it this past time, and it came in on a big U-Haul with a crate, and I got it, and they were like, "What are you?" Okay, so that's the same reaction.
Yeah, these are the things that, like, we have to put up with what we do. So yeah, I spent $3,000 on that, and I've used it once. I did shoes for this is kind of a really awesome story for me personally. One of my most favorite groups growing up was a hip hop group. They were on a label called Def Jam.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the group is called Third Base. And so they were like in 1990, they were just like top of the world, just New York, kind of underground, East Coast hip hop. And so one of their, it was a duo, MC Search, who actually is the reason that Nas blew up. He was like, Search put Nas on like one of his first songs ever. And but like, Search reached out to me, and he wanted to celebrate the 30th anniversary of his first album. So I wanted to do something real special. And so I found a pair of Air Jordan 4s. That's what came out the year that his album came out. And so I recreated the Cactus album on there, but I found a guy that actually did custom tongue tags. And so, but I needed to sew it on. And so that's the only thing that I've used the sewing machine for, was for these one pair of shoes that I did for MC Search from Third Base.
Was it difficult? Like,
it was nervous. It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, well, like, if you mess up sewing into leather, then you've got these holes that like,
looks weird.
You're kind of screwed. So it was there's a regulator on it that makes you go real slow. And boy, I was like super careful with it. I was so nervous.
Yeah, no, I have not. I've tried to use mine. I just honestly don't know how to work. So I'm like looking for. I'm gonna have to look up tutorials or something. But it's real complex. But yeah, I did spend about that much for my sewing machine, and I didn't think sewing machines like that existed. Like, it's just crazy how much, like, I didn't know when I started off. I didn't know that machines like that existed, and I didn't know they'd be that big or heavy or anything like that. So it is crazy, for sure.
I thought it would be like this little, like,
yeah.
And
no, it's serious. Like, you really have to take your time with it. Like, it's a big deal.
It took me 15 minutes just to like thread the needle. And like, I'm like watching YouTube videos and like, okay, this goes here, and okay, and somehow it worked out.
Right, got you. And so our next question I had is, since you kind of brought up how we're in the same environment, the greater Cincinnati area, and it's also unique because we're also customizing shoes in this area. So a question I had was, what would you say what's your experience been like with the sneaker culture or the custom sneaker culture in this area?
Outside of just like knowing you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone else that's in this area
Right.
that's doing anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know if I'm sure you might know a few people, but
Mm-hmm.
are there people in this
I
area?
recently just so the first my first guest on the podcast is a woman. She's her brand's called Chick Made Kicks. And so
Yeah.
she's in near Columbus. And then
Okay.
I know I think there's like one or two others in Cincinnati that I recently just found out about. So I don't think there's any in, I would say, like Northern Kentucky. I haven't found any. But I know in Cincinnati there may be a few. Um, but like beyond that, like have you gotten any responses from people at the NKU community about your shoes, or just anybody? It doesn't have to be people that customize shoes, but just like customers or anybody, have they gotten any reactions to your shoes?
Yeah, I get a bunch of DMs from people
Right.
that are like, "Hey, I live in Cincinnati and
Mhm.
love what you're doing," and
Right.
just all that real positive stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
you know what it's like.
Right.
Anytime you see someone from this area doing something, I think at this level,
Mhm.
it's just super cool and it's super
Right.
supportive, and
Mhm.
you know, it's all love. I
Right.
mean, as snobby as sneakerheads can be,
Mhm.
it's also kind of like this. And especially even like in the custom world,
Right.
it's just kind of there's a lot of love. I'll just say that,
Right.
and so
Mhm.
it's just been like a lot of love.
Mhm.
Really, no negative interactions with folks. Just a lot of like
Right.
you know, I've grown up here, so it's
Mhm.
like I know a lot of people in this area. One of my buddies is a professional comedian, and
Mhm.
so he's shown me a lot of love. I just got the most random of
Right.
friends, but
I say, it seems like you got a lot of famous, or your hands in a lot of pots, anyways, in terms of the people
oh
you.
yeah, man,
That's
it's so
crazy.
weird,
That's
so weird.
crazy. And it's crazy that like shoes have been able to bring that together. Like I think about that, like how that's like, you've like with your the situation with the Wu-Tang Clan, and you've now like
Yeah,
a piece of your artwork has been on famous WWE's social media accounts and a documentary, and I'm probably TV. Like that. Do you ever think like that's nuts just because you decided to put Wu-Tang on a pair of used Jordan 1s, that this like has taken you to where it's at? Like I think about that. Like that's nuts. Um,
it it like it doesn't make any sense at all, like
mhm.
none. But like people that know me are like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. So
Right.
it's like it makes no sense, and it makes like all the sense, and
Mhm.
it's man, I don't know, man. I'm just like
Right.
I'll say this though. So like you know, I'm doing like a lot of '90s stuff and
Right.
with '90s pop and
Mhm.
a lot of stuff with WWE. And so I've got 4 daughters, right? And
Right.
so no matter how cool I think I am with
Mhm.
like you know like
Yeah.
flipping like a pair of Jordans into like
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
as creative as that,
Mhm.
and no matter how cool I am, I'm like, oh man, I'm working with like the Wu-Tang Clan.
Right.
They still look at me as like
It
just
does.
like
Mhm.
stop, you're embarrassing us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, they no matter like every once in a while my head will kind of start to get a little bit larger, like oh
Mhm.
my god, look at all the stuff I'm doing, and they'll bring me right back to
Right.
reality, and it's
Uh-huh.
just
Got you.
you know it's so I'm blessed, I'm real fortunate, I'm like so thankful
Mhm.
of like every single person that's like done anything for me.
Mhm.
You know, and I'll never forget, like anyone that's ever done anything for me.
Right.
I will never forget that.
Mhm.
And any opportunity that I have, and I've shared this with you,
Mhm.
anything I can do for you, man, I'm always there. The answer is
Right.
always yes for you. Even if it's just like a piece of advice, you know,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older, so I've been
Uh-huh.
around the block with
Got you.
some of the stuff and
Mhm.
various startups and stuff like that. So
Got you.
it's crazy, man.
Got you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And so I only got a few more questions. And so out of all the customs that you've done, what is the hardest custom that you've ever done that was a real big struggle for you?
Yeah. Um, you know, the old dirty bastard ones that I did.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
think the ODBs, they were like, I look at them now and I'm like, those were the 4th pair that I ever did,
Wow.
and I'm even like, I don't even know if I could like do that again.
Mhm.
It's it's just so the level of detail in there. It was like I just look at it, I'm like, oh my god, how did that happen? So I think those are the shoes that I'm probably most proud of.
Okay.
And I know those were the shoes that kind of kicked it off in the eyes of the Wu-Tang Clan guys, and that kind of just had a snowball effect with everything else. But those were definitely the hardest shoes that I've done to date. And I try to push myself. I try not to do the same design. I try to I mock up everything in the digital world, and I don't know what is your process like? What
So typically, like, it's mock-ups first, just because I'm not like some people are like extremely talented like that. I'm not one of those people. I can't just like look at something or come up with a design in my head and then just like slam it onto a shoe. Like I need to like look at it, dissect it, see what I need to do first.
Yep.
Like that's how I am first. So it's typically a mock-up.
Yeah, I'm never gonna draw portraits. It's just not who I am. It's not like my skill set. But I could take something in Illustrator and like I could like draw out stuff in Illustrator, create a vector graphic from it, take it over, stencil it out, and then figure out like how can I add complexities with layers and stuff like that. Gotcha. I tell you what, man, there's nothing more frustrating, especially early on. Before I really understood like the value of true prep. Like you'd lay down a layer and then you'd put a stencil on it.
Bro,
and you take
I already
it
know
off
what you're gonna say. Breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. I don't understand. Like I think I'm pretty sure it happened yesterday. Like you'll lay down a layer of paint and then you put the stencil down and then it rips up the paint that you just laid down. And so now it looks disgusting and you have to fix it, but it still doesn't look that good because you've had to I hate that. I don't know that.
And by the way, like the little like if you look at it and it's like a millimeter or something that's like slightly like darker, we're the only people that really will ever see that. Like the person that gets the shoes will never even notice that, but it still drives us crazy, right?
And it blows my mind because like a lot of times my girlfriend, she'll be with me while I'm customizing shoes, but she'll just like read a book or something, like, and so I'll be like, hey, like, do you notice this right here? Like, do you notice that little speck right there? And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, you don't see that? You don't so that's a huge thing that like most people who don't look in, I mean, I guess that's just with anything. Like for a barber, like he's not gonna notice, or he'll notice everything that you probably won't notice with the haircut. So I guess
that's exactly it, man. But it's you know what though, it makes us who we are.
Yeah,
so that's
for sure. So what's your what's your favorite custom and what's your most meaningful custom?
Okay, so my favorite, it might be either Matt Hardy's, or I did a pair of sneakers for a guy named Jensen Karp.
Okay.
Jensen Karp was a rapper from like the 2000s, but he's out in LA, and he actually is the did you ever watch the show Drop the Mic that was on? Yeah, he was the that's his show. So he put that together. He's the executive producer for that show. And he's married to Topanga. I don't know if you watch Boy Meets World.
Yes, but, he's married to. Yeah. That's surprising. I didn't know.
So he's like, and he like owns an art gallery out in California, and he's a huge Gravediggers fan. And Gravediggers was a group from the RZA, who's from the Wu-Tang Clan. He had this side project, and like they actually recorded before the first Wu-Tang album. And they put out this rap. So rap in like 93, 94, the underground stuff was like almost like horror movies esque. Like just like really dark and grimy. And so Gravediggers was kind of like this like hardcore hip hop group that had the RZA in it. So anyhow, I did a tribute to that album for Jensen Karp. And I'm just a huge Gravediggers fan, and it was just like, man, I was just like geeking out the whole time making these shoes. So I think those were probably the most rewarding for me, because it's like one of my favorite albums of all time. And I got to work with someone who's pretty cool out in LA that really kind of equally geeked out over it.
Got you. And then was there is your most meaningful one also your favorite one too?
Oh man, you know what though? I think if I have to take it back, I think the most meaningful one is the Wu-Tang one. That one
Okay.
right there.
Right.
Like that one, like I even did like the Chinese font in there. And, this is it. So I've retired this. I'm gonna take this apart, and this is what I'm gonna use to stencil out.
Okay.
I deconstruct and reconstruct. So I think out of all the shoes, that would be the most meaningful one because it was the first one I did. It turned out way nicer than it should have, and it just kind of sparked all this madness.
Gotcha. And it's like kind of just bonding with your friends too. I think that's a real cool story. You and your like friends were just going to a concert. Like that's nuts. And so, okay, so my last question is what does the future look like? So I know you're doing custom shoes now. Do you plan on doing custom shoes in the future, or maybe do you want to do this full time or eventually if it gets to that point, or, what's the path for that?
Yeah, no, yeah. I'll only do it like at nights and on the weekends. Like this will never be, I'm never going to look for this as my primary source of income.
Right.
For a few reasons. Okay. Right. And so I never want this to I never want to have to do this.
Okay.
I always going to want to do this. And so I intentionally kept my professional life in the daytime separate from this. Right. Plus I get to do meaningful work. I work for a healthcare system. I'm in charge of marketing, digital marketing. It's like that. I love that too. So I'm never going to leave that. So I'm still going to kind of do both. I keep them separate, but I don't know. I think for me, really, I want to start taking apart like shoes, deconstructing them, and then putting back together, not with designer fabric, but with like stuff from the 90s, right? So like
kind of like Shoe Surgeon, maybe. Have you seen that? Is it similar to him?
Yeah, I see what I had to do though, man. When I first started, so like I'm Googling everything and like I'm like taking it all in. And then I got to a point where I felt like I understood enough to get started with stuff. And I had to unfollow everybody because I'm afraid that I'm accidentally going to bite someone's style. Right. And so like, I don't want to accidentally steal someone else's idea. And so I don't follow, I think the only people I follow are people that I feel personally connected to, yourself, Lace Society, and maybe a handful of others. But like, I've intentionally unfollowed, the Moshes and the Jesus and like, and like, I had no clue who these people were when I first started too. So like, but I've intentionally like tried to scale back, but what I want to do is, I'll tell you what I want to do. And I want to hear more about what you just said. Like I want to take an old school starter jacket. Do you remember starter jackets?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. I want to make like a starter sneaker, an Air Jordan 1 starter sneaker.
That would be
right. And so like, it's not like, I'm not taking like Gucci fabric or I'm not taking like Versace or anything like that.
Which is what a lot of people do now.
Yeah. So tell me about the shoe surgeon.
Right. So with the shoe surgeon, you should definitely check him out. So he's known for like deconstructing and repurposing shoes. Like for example, he partnered with the NBA as well as Anthony Davis to create you remember Ruffles, like the chips. He made like a Ruffles Jordan 1, but he took like this different type of leather, like fitted to the Ruffles branding with all their colors and their fonts, and slammed it on a Jordan 1. And Ruffles, you could actually go buy those shoes. They're very, very expensive. It's your upper echelon sneakers, like worth thousands of dollars. Or he's done some for the Miami Heat, and he'll like just retake, like, I don't know if you've heard of or if you've seen Reptile fabric or Reptile leather. He does a lot of work with that. Just like your different type of Jordan 1. He typically does on Jordan 1s, I've noticed. But just your different type of leather, and he'll take a normal basic Jordan 1 and completely freak it and make it to something that you've never seen before. And so I look at his YouTube channel. I know he has shoe surgeon classes that you can take, which are, I mean, they're expensive, but he is famous for a lot of teaching people how to do that. And so that's been big on his end.
Now, is that something you're interested in?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I will get so much into the deconstructing and reconstructing. I do want to be able to sew fabric onto leather. I won't be doing the Louis Vuitton Gucci thing just because I feel like
everybody does that.
Played out, I think.
Yeah, and I just don't want to get into it. But I do definitely. That's why I bought the whole sewing machines, because I want to be able to sew all sorts of custom patches or anything like that onto shoes. But as far as like reconstructing and deconstructing, I think it's really, really cool. I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. It just seems hard and difficult. And so I'll see once I figure out how to work my sewing machine, we'll see. But right now it's really just going to be focused on just sewing onto the shoe.
Well, it's crazy. So like when I first started to go down that path, like I didn't realize that, like in order to trace out and get the patterns, like whatever you're tracing out, like, and it makes sense now that I think about it, but like I wear size 13. So like when I trace out the size 13s, like I can't use that for a size 9 or size 10 or whatever. And so like whatever patterns I want to get, like I actually have to get that shoe, take it apart, basically destroy it just for the pattern. And then, like I didn't realize, like, not only did I need the sewing machine,
right,
but I needed what was called the last, and so that's that plastic. Do you know what I'm talking about? A last?
I think so. What is
it? Basically, it's like a fake foot. That's
like
yes,
that you use to mold it while you're. Yes, I know.
Yeah. And so but like you have to get it for the shoe type and the size. So I had to buy a size 13 Air Jordan 1 last that was like $200. I haven't done anything with it yet. I have, and then like when you press it on to the outsole, like there's like this hydraulic machine that I had to buy. That, like there's just so much stuff that goes in, and it's just for like one particular size of one particular brand. And it's just like
crazy. It makes me. I understand why it's so expensive. Like at first I didn't understand, but after watching his videos and I've watched other people's videos, there's a ton that goes into it that like you definitely like wouldn't I mean, I knew just being a customizer, but like you wouldn't understand. Like the shoe surgeon, he has like a whole warehouse of just he has a bunch of lasses, and it seems like every shoe that he does, and that he has a whole team. So him and his whole team do, like, it's really handcrafted, and it takes a long time in every single like intricate of detail that goes into the shoe. So I didn't know.
Crazy. Yeah, I had no clue. I'm like, oh, this will be easy. You just like, cut out some leather and like you just sew it together, right?
Like that's how I started with customizing. Like when I started, I was like, bro, this is nothing. Like I can do this. Like, because I saw a like a 12-year-old or 13-year-old kid. He was painting a pair of rainbow Huaraches, back when Huaraches were really, really popular, and he was selling it for like $400 or $500. Easy. And like I was a college student, so I was like, bro, I can do that. Like that's not, I had no idea that he was using the airbrush and that he picked neon colors instead of normal colors to make them pop more, and that his fade work was really, really good. I had no idea, but I was just thinking it was good. Like, so no, it's crazy how like perspective changes for sure.
Oh, totally, man. Totally. So do you stay on top of like just normal sneakerhead news and like that kind of like a
Yeah, I definitely do. I would say a little bit less now. And like I always tell people this, because I was like, oh, why don't you have like more shoes or more custom shoes? I've been real busy like just doing other people's shoes than been able to get some shoes of my own. But no, I definitely keep up with sneaker news, because that's how all this started. I love shoes way before I got customized. It was my love of shoes that started this. So yeah, no, I definitely stay updated and still watch.
Yeah, I think I think it's really interesting that like SB Dunks have like blown up this year. Sure. It seems like that's kind of like what's hot right now.
It is crazy, because when I was younger, SB, like they weren't like that. They weren't that cool, and now they're like, and like when I had a few pair, but like it wasn't nothing to me. I just thought they were normal shoes. Now I wish I still had them, because they're going for like up like $1,000+ on StockX and different and GOAT and different sites like that. And so they're definitely huge.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. And like there's just some really cool combos that like yeah, of course now like I'm, back into sneakers just this last year, and like I'm all on StockX and like looking up and like, oh man, they made a pair of De La Soul shoes and just like, just crazy fun stuff. But
Are Jordan 1s your go-to shoe?
Yeah, I think that, or the Air Force. I love the Air Force One because it's so much canvas to work with that there's only like really the swoosh that you've got to work that has a layer. And like my style it's almost like this flattened disruptive style. So like sometimes like I'll pay attention to where the swoosh is and I might go behind it or something like that, or I might stay on a particular like segment. But other times, man, I'm just like, screw that, and I just like go all over the place with it, and just like, it's just like the swoosh is there, but it's like it's not there. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
What's your go-to?
I honestly don't. I love Jordan 1s. I'm a big 3 and 4 guy. I love 3s and 4s. Now, as far to customize, I think I've only customized one pair of Jordan 1s. Surprisingly, just because people haven't asked for it. Air Force 1s are my favorite to customize. Like I said, there's a ton of panels. You can do tons of work on them. A lot of detailed work that can go into them. But they also like go with everything. They look good with everything, depending on the colorway.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say those are definitely my my top to customize. But as far as like my favorite Jordans, 3s and 4s and 11s are big deals to me. And before we exit, what do you think we should name the show? Like this episode?
I should bookend it with what I started with. The oldest guest.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to say it. Like,
gotcha.
Like, how do you explain like some guy in his late 40s who just started to like customize shoes less than a year ago? Yeah. That's now hanging out with the Wu-Tang Clan and pro wrestler.
I don't know. At least you skyrocketed fast, so that's good. That's good.
Yeah, there we go. Skyrocketed.
I think you found like a really good niche too. Like I think that also may have helped you because like your niche is within 90s hip hop and and WWE, and I haven't seen anyone customize into those. Typically, it's just NBA players, NFL players.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a few rappers, but not too many rappers. So I think that also is a testament. Is like you found a really, really good niche to where you're the man in that area. So that's
great.
That's really,
great. The things I've been able to do, like, have you heard of a rapper named Rakim?
Yes.
Okay, so like, I just saw him live here in Cincinnati, and his manager knew about me, and they put me on stage in the back behind the DJ. Like, It was just me, his 2 bodyguards, and Rakim, and I got to watch Rakim's concert on stage.
Oh my God!
Only because of the sneakers. Yeah. I went VIP with Wu-Tang Clan only because of my sneakers, and it's like, man, what a life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and like that's a testament to you like being able to excel in that niche because like I said, nobody else is doing that, and so now when somebody else gets into pro wrestling or there's other 90s hip hop, they know who to go to because you've done so many other and you've been VIP, and you've done a great job with the shoes, so of course they're going to recommend you. So I just think that's just really cool. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode. I definitely want to give a huge shout out to Jim, just really sharing his story and providing us with a lot of his experiences. Make sure you guys check out his website as well as his social medias. That'll be linked in the description below. And we'll see you guys for episode 5.